everybody. My name is Regina Bryan, and welcome to the Women of Empowered Living. And today I have another spectacular woman from right here in the EL community, and she's one of our superstar team ambassadors. Everybody, welcome Barbara Britt. Hey, Barbara, how are you?
Well, Gina, I'm wonderful, and I'm so glad to be on here with all of you guys. It really makes my day.
Oh, it's making my day to have you. Where are you joining from today?
Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And so I'm in the Panhandle, Northwest Florida. So I'm all the way down by Pensacola.
Okay, but not too far from me in Atlanta. So in this big wide world, you and I are pretty close.
6 hours, about 6 hours.
Not bad at all. I'm gonna have to come visit you because, and if you all watching have not seen, Barbara posts on her personal page the most glorious photos from her backyard, from your front yard, from right where you live on the water.
Yes, I wanted to post something that made people happy. When everything started, I thought everything I put is going to be positive on Facebook. Nothing is going to be negative. We already get enough of that. And so I started.
I love that. I love that. The photos are beautiful and I smile. I smile every time I see one. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank
Barbara, as when we were talking before, I realized you and I have something pretty special in common. Both of our dads were in the Navy. And
Yes.
I just think it's a cool lifestyle. It's very interesting. So before we get into the rest of your story, talk to us about what it was like having a dad in the military growing up.
Well, it was great because we lived in a lot of different places. I lived in Japan, in Hawaii, and Nevada. In fact, we were the first Navy family to get stationed in Fallon, Nevada, in the middle of the desert. And it was famous for the longest airstrip, and it had a UFO tower. Now, why we got there, I don't know, but we came from Hawaii to there, and I came in a pair of flip-flops, but we called them go-aheads growing up because you could only go forward in them. And so that and a little sweater, and it was snowing. And we were from Hawaii after staying in Hawaii for 4.5 years.
Wow. So you've done a little bit of moving around as a military brat.
We did. We moved probably 8 times.
8 times, more than me. I grew up mainly in Virginia Beach and Chesapeake, Virginia. And then my dad had the opportunity to go and be stationed in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So before it was like the military kind of Gitmo prisoner camp, military families lived there. And then we had the option to go to Japan or move to Florida. And we chose Florida because my mom's dad was sick at the time. So we needed to be in this country. But it's a great experience being in a military family, don't you think? What were some of the highlights for you?
Well, my mom was so great. Everywhere we went, we picked up the culture of where we were at. So, we went on digs when we were in Nevada. We went through all the different things. We camped out, under the stars. We found arrowheads. We did all of that type of things. When we were in Hawaii, a lot of our friends were off base, and so we really got to see how the culture lived, how they ate. But my parents were really big in that, especially my mom. And so everywhere I went, we really lived off the economy. And that doesn't happen a lot back when you and I were growing up. Military mostly stayed on base, and we did a lot, but our friends and associations were people that were from that place.
That's so awesome. Now in Guantanamo Bay, we absolutely had to stay on base. There was no going into communist Cuba, but it was still an extraordinary experience because I was 13 years old at the time, and our family really loved it. My mom, my dad, my sisters, and I. So I really felt like we connected there because I just think it's an extraordinary way to grow up and be a part of a military family. But growing up for you, Barbara, you also had struggles and challenges with learning. And I think you even chatted with me about having a learning disability. Share with us sort of what that was like, especially in the time you were growing up.
Well, we were living in Hawaii then when I went to first grade. And I was danced around the maypole in Hawaii when it became a state. So that kind of gives you an idea. Anyway, I had what I call a disability. I couldn't read until the 5th grade. I couldn't read anything, but I because of that disability, I turned it into an ability. And that
Ooh,
really
that's
helped me,
good.
it really helped me a lot, being able to see that disability. And really and truly, until I went to my first John Maxwell meeting and got in to Paul Martinelli and Les Brown and Roddy Galbraith's speaking thing, I got in, even though I wasn't supposed to be there, but I paid my money, so they let me come in. And I was lamenting everything about having that disability, being every single year being promoted up. I mean, in the 5th grade, I could read absolutely nothing. And so you know, just some horrendous things happened because, you know, I never got to go out for recess because I never had my homework done. Well, you can't do your homework if you don't read.
So you're saying, Barbara, that you never got to go out and enjoy recess as a kid in elementary school?
No.
Oh, wow.
I can count on one hand, because if you didn't turn in your homework, I couldn't read. And I went to a teacher that was supposed to help me with that, but they didn't. And so, you know, up until, and this is what Les Brown taught me. I was doing my speech and Les Brown said, "Why are you so mad?" And I said, "I'm not mad." And he said, "No, you're furious." And I said, "I am." And then he helped me to see the story change. Les Brown showed me how it had changed. My life changed, and I learned to read because a woman came in our back door, because my mom ironed for people. My brother was very ill. She couldn't leave the house. My dad was always gone on the
And
ship.
so, Barbara, this is when you're a 5th grader.
Yes.
And this is at the end of your 5th grade year when you met this woman?
Into my 5th grade year, getting ready to go into my 6th. And she came in the back door to pick up ironing. And my mom and I were both crying because I couldn't get my homework done. I couldn't read. And I tore my paper, and I knew I was going to be in trouble the next day. It was going to be bad. I didn't mean to tear it, but I did. And I was crying, and the lady walked in and she said these words, "I will teach her to read." That summer.
Oh my gosh.
She taught
So
me
a
to read.
lady that you and your mother did not know walked in while you and your mother were like in the struggle. You were crying.
It was terrible. She came to pick up ironing, and she walked in the door, and she had heard it, but we didn't. In Hawaii, we had the back door open because we didn't have air conditioning and it was hot. And so she said, "I will teach her to read." And that summer, from not reading at all, she taught me to read, and I read The Good Earth. That's
You read
one
The
person.
Good Earth.
I read The Good Earth. Now, did I comprehend? But I could read every word. I will tell you what, having Hawaiian punch and a sugar cookie will work miracles. But, you know, the great thing was that she was a teacher, but she had miscarried. And so her heart was broken and she wasn't going to teach that year. And so when she came in and saw that, she came outside of herself, and she said, and she did, she taught me to read in one summer. And that one person changed my life. And then I've had more one persons that have come along and have made it possible to do what I did.
That's first of all, that's an amazing story. You and this wonderful woman that you just happened to meet at that moment. And her heart was broken and she wasn't going to teach. And so I think just as though she gave you the gift of reading, she helped you begin that.
Yes.
Gosh, I have to think, Barbara, that you gave her something special too.
I hope so. I hope so, because she means the world. She gave me my world. She really did.
Oh my gosh, the power of one person to change a life is incredible.
The power of one.
How was the rest of your schooling after that? You learned how to read. So how did junior high and high school, if you will, how did those play out for you?
Struggles, because back then when you were diagnosed with something, then it just stayed with you. And so I was always in remedial classes. But also remember, when you're 5 years not learning something in school, it was like a void. So I will give you this, junior high was deplorable. I mean, it's not that I didn't enjoy it, but high school, I graduated second to last in my class, Regina, second to last.
How many students?
2,000.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I made
That
the top half bid on that possible.
That must have really ate away at your core self-esteem, your confidence.
It did. And the only thing I kept saying from the 7th grade on was, I'm going to be a teacher. So you can imagine how people looked at me like, really? You're going to be a teacher? You know, and it's just those types of things. And then the one person, again, that I met was my husband.
Yeah,
when
so
we were in college.
I love this, Barbara, because you were moved by your experience with this woman who taught you how to read, that you were determined that you were going to be a teacher so that you could help others.
Mhm.
And so you start college. So talk to us about what was that like at college?
Well, when I was in college, that was back in the days when people really dated a lot. But when I
Right.
was in college, I remember when I met my husband, he said, well, will you go out? Will you do this and that? And I said, not unless you tutor me first. So our dates always started with him tutoring me. And then we'd go out and we'd have a date and we'd go do things and stuff. And so
I love this. You, Barbara, you were so focused on getting your education and becoming a teacher. You're like, listen, you can date me if you can tutor me. And he did.
and bless his heart, we got married and he tutored me all the way through my degree. And he tutored me in math and he just, but you know what, Regina, he worked 3 jobs and he was a teacher. He worked 3 jobs so I could go back to school and get my degree. So I didn't have to do it a little bit at a time. So that one person, they change your world, right?
Oh my gosh. And you've experienced this. And it just makes me think about the one person in my life at any given moment and how powerful that is. And then, Barbara, now I know that currently you are also a member of the John Maxwell team. You've been speaking curriculum and the coaching curriculum, but your coaching journey actually started earlier in your life. So you are actually out there coaching sports teams, right?
I did. I coached 6 different sports teams. And Regina, we talked a little bit, but my first coaching spot, and I needed that job because I had a mortgage to pay and I had just gotten out of college and my husband had worked 3 jobs to get me through, you know, type thing. And they said, well, you can have the swim team. It was 60 swimmers, Regina. And it was January the 18th and it was cold and we were outside pool. And it gets cold in Northwest Florida. I mean, we get cold. We get like 40 degrees. And the only problem was I coached it. I just didn't know how to swim.
Now,
In
I
fact,
love
I didn't.
that. Okay, let us take that in, because when you and I were talking and you said that to me, that was huge. You were the swim coach, Barbara, and you could not swim.
No, I could not. I took swim lessons as soon as my season was over. My kids were so proud. I mean, it was just. But I will tell you what, Regina, this is how bad it was. We only had a ticker thing that showed up on my wall. So took all the pictures off the wall and every night I'd sit in bed, bless my husband's heart, and I would look at that one. And so part of the backstroke was gone. So when I took some of my top elite swimmers down South Florida, we were an underground pool and I'm looking underneath there and my kids are all doing that. And I thought, oh my God, I'm teaching backstroke incorrectly. So I come back. Well, my advanced swimmers, you know, the ones that compete all around the world, you know, you have that. They were fine, you know. I just didn't have to hurt them. But my new ones, I came back. I said, okay, now we're ready for the next leg of the backstroke. Now we're going to bend over. That's the truth.
Barbara, this is so brilliant because as John Maxwell team members, you know, Christian Simpson tells us that we don't have to know that profession to coach someone in it, that it's all about their thinking and bringing out the best in them and then us asking them those right questions. But I do have to say, you were a swim coach that did not swim.
I was a swim coach.
And that's not the only thing, though. Tell us about some of your other adventures in coaching.
Well, I coached the girls' dance team because someone asked me, could they practice? They were just a little group that met. And I thought they said, did I mind sharing my spot? And I said, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. They can get on there. So the principal came down and he said, oh, thank you for taking the dance group of girls. They want to be a team. And I went, okay. So I started with the dance team. And like I said, I did something I didn't realize I was doing. I did what Paul Martinelli says. I grew my wings on the way down. because I'm
Ooh,
a physical education major, you
okay.
do take biomechanics and that. So I know how the body works. But so my dance team, and I could call on people, and, look what Paul does. He's always bringing in people that have knowledge that he may not have, or have it at a higher level. And so we're always learning. Well, that's what I did. I'm not too proud to say, hey, can you come in? I coached the girls weightlifting team. I mean,
You
and
coached the girls weightlifting team.
the first weightlifting team
Love it.
in the state of Florida. I coached it, and we first in our high school, and when they opened it to girls, and this is powerlifting. Now I knew how to lift weights, but powerlifting's different. And so who did God throw in my way? But a lady that worked with the female Olympic weightlifting team. And I met her at a training, and I said, how much would it cost for you to come in and work with my girls 1 day a week? Because I want to make sure that they don't ever get hurt, and I want to win. I like to win.
That's so great. So you did swimming and dancing and weightlifting and cheerleading
For
and
32 years. Uh-huh.
so 32 years as a cheerleading coach.
Yes, a
And
national.
were you a cheerleader growing up?
No, Regina, we were my dad was very low ranked. And so we didn't have any extra money. So any of that type of stuff, I really couldn't do.
But I love it. So 32 years as a cheer coach, coming from a woman who didn't grow up. Most of these cheerleading jobs are women who grew up being cheerleaders. And you did not have that background. And 32 years. So tell us, how did the cheerleading team perform overall?
Well, for 32 years, we were nationally ranked. We were always up into the top 10. I know how the body works. And when I was little, if I would have had those opportunities, if I would have given anything, and I didn't want a child or a student under my care not to be able to get to experience that. In fact, the other night I was at a party, and a lady was at the party, and I didn't recognize her. And she said, I was on your dance PE class. So I had a PE class. I had almost 150 kids in dance PE, because I wanted them to have what I couldn't have. I wanted them to have, and she said, Miss Britt, we used to have costumes, and we did recitals. And she said, that was the closest I ever got to dance. I couldn't afford to take dance class.
Oh,
Yes.
I mean, you were that one person, I'm sure, during your years in coaching to some of those kids. You were a difference maker.
For some, yeah, I hope so. That was in my heart. I wish I would have had the training from Paul Martinelli and John Maxwell before, but I didn't. When you teach 70 hours a week. You don't have, there's no time for anything to do on that.
Exactly. And you just have this rich life, Barbara, with the military background and overcoming a learning disability, and your husband tutoring you in college. So you married your tutor, and then all this cheerleading and coaching background. And I know that right now in your life, you're a speaker, you're a coach, and you have a heart for serving women and military families. So talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now, the work that you really enjoy doing to help others right now.
Well, I really work a lot with my chamber, and I'm getting ready to start with them a youth leadership program that the chamber is actually hosting out, because it's not being done so much anymore in our community. When I was at the high school level, my last 16 years, we had 300 kids in leadership, and we really honed it. But with everything that's happened, we don't have that. I do that, and then I do a mastermind group. It's called Women in Transition, and I got that because I had military wives come up to me and say, "It's our time, Barbara. What can I do? I don't really have any skills. I don't have this." And they just came, and so I worried about it. And then, like a lot of us, I get that message from God. It just says, women in transition, and aren't we all in it? And so with that, I could turn around and say, let me ask you something. When he's gone, he's deployed, and he's got this and this. Who does this? Who does this? Who does this? Well, I do. I go, well, then you're ready to run an office.
How great is that? So you would help them discover that they really did have skills, just based
Yes.
on the fact that being a military spouse, and most of them are women, it's a lot. It's a lot to hold a family together. My mom did that for many, many years. And you
Mine
were
did too.
right. And so you were helping these women discover that they really did have skills.
They do. Well, you know what, Regina? Every single one of us do. And I don't know if I have a time for a real short story, but I'll show you. When I coached girls weightlifting, I got it, you know, of course the season started the next week type thing, as always. And I had this little girl, and after our first meet, she said, I can do all the paperwork, Miss Britt. I can do it, I can do it. Well, the paperwork is tremendous. So I said, well, okay, babe. So we worked on it 1 week together. And then the next week, she took it. And she was one, she'd run around, she'd go, Miss Britt, you gotta go down to Sandy. She's getting ready to drop it. It's her third time, da, 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 da. You know, tell her this, or she knew everybody, but she was lifting also. So one day we're in the room and we're working out, and she keeps dropping the bar on her chest. And I said, babe, don't do that. It's not, those are not hands. It's not good for you. Don't do it. So I turn around, she does it again, you know. So finally I said, enough. And she said, well, Miss Britt, I can't help it. I'm special. And I said, I know you're special. You're special to me. You are so special to me. And she said, no, I'm special. And I said, if you can do the paperwork, you run up and down the thing, then you go and you throw, clean and jerk your stuff. And then you run over to the person and you keep everybody going. You make sure that, you know, that their weights are just where they're supposed to. If you can do that, you can remember not to drop the bar on your chest. And she says it one more time, and my girls go, Miss Britt, she's at Miss Williams' room. And I said, oh, okay. But I didn't know. Well, she was in our, you know, our special needs classes, but she could run a whole entire, I had 30 something girls on that weightlifting team, and she knew everybody's stats. Her paperwork was impeccable. She knew when to, okay, so what can people do if we don't put them in that box? What can people do if we don't put them in that box? Well, this child who was, you know, and I knew that everybody would come and watch her, and I knew that, but that's just kind of our school. That's the climate of Fort Walton Beach High School. I knew that. I never knew it. What would I have done if I had known that beforehand and she had asked the help to do the paperwork? I shudder to think.
Such a lesson, Barbara, that blew my mind, because you had no idea. You
I
treated
had not.
her,
And Miss
her as though
friend.
you just treated her like she was competent, like she could do the job. Go. And to stop and think, and I think about this for myself and all of us, what happens when we automatically limit someone or know about a limitation in advance?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, what you did for her, and the power of you not knowing. You just treated her like you would anybody else.
What she did for me. It really was what she did for me. And it's, you know, people would say, let me tell you about this cheerleader. Let me tell you about, and I'd say, I don't want to know about them. They're going to tell me who they are. They'll tell me. You don't tell me, you know, I don't want to hear from the junior high teachers. I don't want to hear from, I just want to, unless it's something that would hurt her health-wise or that type of stuff. Otherwise, don't tell me about somebody. Let me learn about them. Let them tell me who they are.
Let them tell me who they are. Oh gosh, Barbara, that's so good. And that's what you did then. And that's what you're doing now with pulling out the best in people as a coach and a speaker, and the work you do with women and military wives. What else are you excited about that you've got going on from a work perspective?
Well, from a work perspective, I've built out my masterminds. I've got 3 going at the same time. Well, you know, different days, but I've got Women in Transition, which is my heartbeat. I do that. I've got Circle of Influence, reading John Maxwell's book. The opportunities you get when you have disabilities is this. When I read something, I immediately get a picture of it. I don't just read the words. I have to read them several times, but I got a picture. And so as soon as I saw, you know, that you are the combined total of the 5 people that influence you, mm-hmm. I came up with a circle. I came up with all the different things so that any age, and I've done it with junior high, all the way to 95 can sit there and they can look and analyze, are they with the right circle? Is your circle with the right people? Are you all growing? Are they holding you accountable? So that's where my disability became, ability and opportunities. So I have that going, and then I'm also doing Think and Grow Rich, and I'm so excited about that. So
have you already launched Think and Grow Rich, Barbara, or is that coming up?
And no, I'm going to start it on Thursday on the 28th.
So January the 28th, and this show won't come to our community until February or early March. So do you do these events all the time? How can people sort of keep up with your calendar and what events you're doing?
Well, I'm going, you can go to my website because I keep everything on my website. And it's barbarabritt.com, so it's real easy to get there.
How easy is your name, Barbara?
That's my name. Not very inventive on this, but it's barbarabritt.com, and you can go there. And again, you can always messenger me. I will always help. And I have people that say, "Well, we need this and this and this." The good thing about it is, again, the disability to the other was that I will create around what you need. I'm not going to give you a program piece because my groups are never the same. They're never the same.
I love that. So you're going to customize for what the individual, what the participants, what the need is.
Yes, because I do professional coaching as well. And, I don't do the same thing with any one of them because they're not the same people. They don't have the same needs.
Well, that's so true, Barbara. And I have to thank you for all that you do in this community as an individual, as a team ambassador. You're always on the Facebook page. So Barbara is someone that you can easily find on our Facebook pages. Barbara, what you've shared with us today, tremendous. The lesson of the power of one person and the people that have been that in your life. And now you're doing that you're doing that for other people. It's such a gift and such a blessing. We'd love for you to share with us as we wrap up. What does an empowered life mean to you?
Empowered life means, well, first of all, it means everything to me. It's a gift. It's God's promise to us. That's what I feel like it's God's promise to us. And it means that I can not only receive from everybody, which I do, but I can also be that one person. I can make that difference. We're going to do Change Your World with the whole boys and girls team. I just got them the other day, and I'm going to work. Think about that. They're going to be little pilot lights going out all across the world, and they're going to start helping to change other people's world. That's what an empowered life is.
That is so exciting. What the work that you're doing is exciting. I'm so happy that we both get to be involved with Change Your World coming up. And Barbara, again, thank you just for who you are in the community. And I'm so glad that recently you and I've got to connect a little more, and I've gotten to know you better. You're a tremendous gift. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you. You have done a wonderful job. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today, and we will see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.